Well, HunterNet wasn't the original concept. The HunterNet thing grew out of people getting together and talking about what was necessary, because the spark that set the whole thing off was the going into receivership of Carrington slipways.
HunterNet started with about 12 people put together by the New South Wales Chamber of Commerce.
But I must say that the business environment at that time was extremely poor. If you recall, in the early 90s there was a recession right across the nation, and in the Hunter, of course, you had the pending steel industry crisis. We had cancellation or missing out on some of the defence contracts that we were promised. So all in all, the Newcastle region itself, and particularly the manufacturing side of things, was not good at all.
It was just a meeting called of interested parties, of manufacturers in the Hunter, to see what we could do about the current situation.
It was dire straits because many hundreds of people were going to be without work.
So we were wondering what's the future of the Hunter? Where do we go from here?
This meeting that we had with the Chamber of Manufacturers was about how the hell do we help ourselves. The subject was brought on about a network. What the hell is a network? And we started to learn about this network concept.
It was formed, and we basically used our knowledge of business, and we went to people like, excuse me, like Ginnins, Comsteel, etc., 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 and asked could they, with their business development people, also give some assistance.
We're all competitors, so the big issue is about, oh shit, I don't like him, and he's so and so, and so this took probably the first 12 months into getting an understanding of what the hell we were all about.
First of all, we had to work out, why we were there, what we could do, and how we could run it. We ended up putting some little bit of money in each. We did form a board, elected a chairman.
We were able to get one of the members, companies, a guy by the name of Harvey Knox, which everybody knows very, very well. He came on board reasonably early on, and then things really started to move.
Through the Newcastle University, which was extremely helpful back in those days, they gave us some concepts about marketing, market research, understanding what you want to do and how you want to do it, to finally launch and have our day in the sun, which was on the South Stain.
Everything was going fine until, I think it was Josh at the time, turned around and said that we had to stand up one by one and introduce ourselves and tell all the members what we did. So I instantly turned into a block of ice and struggled through it.
What the launch did, it brought to HunterNet the skills of the professional class in Newcastle, lawyers, solicitors, accountants, marketing people. They said, well, how can we be involved and help?
People will talk about Nev Sawyer. He was, of course, one of our founders, and Nev was very passionate about training.
First of all, education was the thing. We had to educate the subcontractors about how they should market their companies, the things that they should talk about, their areas of excellence, and how they should work together to look at jobs, not do it as a single entity.
Once we got round the table and started telling each other of our own problems and our own issues that we were dealing with, it became quite apparent that the more and more we took, the more people were able to talk about their problems, and we weren't treading on anybody's toes, we weren't competing, we were just learning from each other, and it enabled us to win more work.
In many ways, not only just chasing a particular contract or a business opportunity, but you can learn from one another, and that was evident almost from the start.
I met some people who knew Joss, met Joss, and so it was only a short step from there to become a member of HunterNet. And it was interesting for me because they connected me to organisations that I didn't really know existed.
So you could work and supply a product where you didn't have the wherewithal to to fully manufacture from start to finish. So that was the start of the cooperation and the networking.
The progress was not only in quality assurance, it was in best practice management, it was in business, IT, safety, all of these things, trying to lift people's game.
Harvey took on the big haul, and I suppose Harvey, in my behalf, takes a responsibility for growing HunterNet to the stage that it is now.
And he annoyed the crap out of us until we joined up. And that was in July 1998. And at that stage, the meetings were much smaller than they are today. We might have had 20, possibly 30 people at a meeting.
Worked closely with Harvey, who was the manager, of course, back then. He was a great guy. And always remember Harvey and I went out to Tomago Aluminium and met Doug Parrish, and so we did a big pitch to get Tomago on board, and Doug was happy to do that.
The first thing that you're faced with is this, scepticism, I suppose, about what one individual or the other might be doing. But Harvey's work and your own desire to push soon got rid of a lot of that.
Probably the most significant change that I recall in HunterNet was the loss of Harvey. He brought to HunterNet something that I don't think anybody else could have done at those days. He was a character, and he was very passionate, and he loved his job dearly.
Well, we're social animals, and we've been criticised for that from time to time. But I must admit, the social aspect keeps the whole thing alive. And I do remember trips that we've had to the likes of Hong Kong and Vietnam and to Hanover.
But here we were in Hong Kong, say 20-odd HunterNet members in one of the big towers in the top of Hong Kong there, addressing some of the most powerful companies in the world as a group.
So it's then that we started to look for members outside of that metal, sheet work, etc., etc.
When unfortunately Harvey passed away, John Coyle at the time, who was chairman, stepped down from chairman, retired from his company, and basically took up the role of looking after HunterNet. John made a tremendous difference to HunterNet. He took it down a different path, more on the engineering side of things.
Was the start of the strategising for phase one of what we called Model for Action. That involved a survey conducted by the Hunter Valley Research Foundation that took a snapshot on the level of innovation across businesses in the Hunter. And that early phase led on to what became the program Innovate the Hunter, and the success that it became.
I think the economy was doing it a little bit tough at the beginning of this decade, but nothing like a decade before that in 1991 when HunterNet was formed. But there were some issues then. We only really had about 35 members, and it had run down a bit, so we really had to start in some ways from scratch and set out a new plan, a new way forward. And I think in the first year it was here we had our first planning conference.
If companies could start to organise or to move into a phase where they were using higher levels of IP or higher levels of knowledge in their activities, it would allow them to compete better with overseas firms.
The BHPs and the tube makers and the Comsteels and the electricity commissions, they stopped training mass apprentices, simply stopped. And that eventually caused a shortfall of people in the system.
HunterNet Group Training Company was established back in 1996 and it was based on a member-driven need. The HunterNet cooperative members, a lot of them employed their own apprentices and felt that the system wasn't working, and they needed a group training company to drive this.
Since its inception, I've put all my apprentices through HunterNet Group Training Company, and it's been very good for us and a lot of positive results from it.
it's just so massive now. It's grown a hell of a lot since the early days, but it covers such a wide area, and being so big and having thousands of people really employed by members of HunterNet, it makes us a very, very powerful group.
We were looking to be part of the political system, to understand and to be not one side or the other. We needed to be good citizens within the community and making sure that we respected all positions of government.
Well, HunterNet now is big enough and strong enough and has been recognised both locally and state and nationally to become a significant force to be reckoned with and to be listened to by state and federal government.
It's now highly regarded and understood throughout the country. I'm very fortunate with my company, Custom Fluid Power. I get to travel right around Australia, and the Hunter is renowned for its HunterNet ability. And I'm very fortunate when I can say that I'm the original chairman.
What it has done in relation to group training, apprentices, as well as continuous training of its own membership is excellent. I think it's also had a great relationship with regional development here that has enabled applications for specific funding.
I guess HunterNet has evolved over that time, and it's taken advantage of the opportunities and exploited the opportunities that have developed in the region.
Well, I must admit, HunterNet has exceeded all my expectations. What can I do for the future? Well, I suppose there's still a lot of work to be done. We've got a changing environment platform. Manufacturing, still not sexy. But what people have got to understand that the game for manufacturing has changed.
We now know that the closure of BHP was not the death of Newcastle. In 2012, the challenges are much greater and much broader. Still challenges locally. We're seeing local industry downsize. But added to that, we have a national decline in manufacturing. We suffer greatly from imports from overseas. And as we speak, we don't know how the stability of Europe will be next week, let alone next month and next year. And so a forum like HunterNet provides the opportunity to get access to new projects that may be happening in the area, access to training and development programs, access to government. All of those things combine to create an atmosphere of hope, an atmosphere where you can seek opportunities and very much not doing it on your own.
I can only see the future of HunterNet continuing to be strong. It will always be a case of trying to provide the members with what they perceive to be getting good value for money.
Manufacturers in Australia are innovative, and that's where we've got our edge. You know, we might only make a few products, but we make bloody good ones.
Because we're all about creating wealth and prosperity for ourselves, for our employees, for the nation we live in.
Can I drink me beer again now? Okay. I'd like to propose a toast to HunterNet and its 20th year.